stepmother Tears' stepdaughter's wedding dress on the wedding day. But what she does next? Jennifer Baker trembled as her hands clenched the delicate fabric of the wedding dress. The sound of the lace tearing echoed through the hall like a cry of despair, but nothing hurt more than the decision she had just made. "I can't let this happen, Emily," she shouted, still holding the pieces of the imported lace that had cost 2 years of savings. "You can't marry him." The young Emily Johnson stood frozen in the middle of the banquet hall, surrounded by 100 guests in absolute silence. She looked at the pieces of her dream dress scattered on the floor, and then into the desperate eyes of the woman who had raised her since she was 10. "Aunt Jennifer, what are you doing?" whispered Emily, using the affectionate term she had always used for her stepmother. Michael Johnson, the groom, took 2 steps toward the 2 women. His face was red with anger, and his hands were clenched into fists. "You have completely lost your mind," he shouted. "How dare you do this to Emily?" Jennifer turned to him with an expression mixing hatred and panic. Her fingers still trembled as they held the remains of the dress. "You!" She pointed a shaky finger at Michael. "You are not who you say you are." The 28-year-old man stepped back, confused. His whole family was there, including his mother, Margaret, who had arrived late and was now watching the scene with wide eyes. "What are you talking about?" Michael stammered. Emily carefully approached her stepmother, like someone trying to calm a frightened animal. At 26, she had never seen Jennifer so out of control. "Auntie, explain to me what's happening, please." Tears began to stream down Jennifer's face. She let go of the pieces of the dress, which fell to the floor like withered white petals. "I can't explain here, in front of everyone. But trust me, my dear. This wedding cannot happen." From the group of guests, an elderly lady with grey hair and reading glasses stepped forward. It was Mrs. Patterson, the most respected seamstress in the Williamsburg neighborhood of New York, who had been hired to make the final adjustments to the dress. "Mrs. Baker, you are very upset. Let's try to resolve this calmly." Mrs. Patterson approached, examining the damage. "The dress can be fixed. I brought my sewing kit for emergencies." "No!" Jennifer shouted again. "The dress is not the problem." Jessica, Emily's younger sister, who had been raised alongside her by Jennifer, cautiously approached. "Mom, you're scaring everyone. What happened?" Jennifer looked at her younger daughter, her eyes full of inner conflict. Jessica was only 16 and knew nothing about the family's past. Father Michael, a kind 60-year-old man who had baptized both Emily and Jessica, stepped forward. "My child, perhaps it would be better if we talked in private. Shall we go to the sacristy?" "No," Jennifer repeated. "If I leave here, they will get married, and I cannot allow that." Michael was growing increasingly irritated. He turned to the guests. "Everyone, I apologize for this. Mrs. Baker is clearly having some kind of nervous breakdown. Let's continue with the ceremony." "You will not marry her," Jennifer screamed with a force no one knew she possessed. At that moment, Margaret Johnson, the groom's mother, who had remained silent until then, visibly paled. Her shaky legs made her lean on a nearby chair. "Michael, my son, perhaps we should hear what the lady has to say." Michael looked at his mother, surprised. Margaret had always been a determined and confident woman, but now she seemed fragile and frightened. "Mother, have you lost your mind too?" Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. Jennifer looked directly at Margaret, and the 2 women stared at each other for long seconds in silence. There was something unspoken passing between them, a silent communication that left everyone present even more confused. "You know why I'm doing this, don't you?" Jennifer said quietly, but everyone heard in the tense silence of the hall. Margaret lowered her eyes and shook her head slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. You recognized my face the moment you saw me, just as I recognized yours." Emily looked from one woman to the other, trying to understand what was happening. "Do you two know each other?" "No," Margaret answered too quickly. "Yes," Jennifer said at the same time. The tension in the air became almost palpable. The guests whispered among themselves, some already thinking about leaving the commotion. Ashley Williams, Emily's cousin and her best friend, discreetly approached. "Emily, do you want me to call a doctor?" Your stepmother is very upset. No, Ashley, I need to understand what's happening. Aunt Jennifer would never do this without a very serious reason. Michael was losing his patience. He addressed the guests again. Everyone, let's postpone the ceremony for a few minutes. Please help yourselves to the cocktails while we sort out this situation. There will be no ceremony, Jennifer shouted once more. This time, it was Emily who lost her patience. Enough, she exclaimed, surprising everyone. Aunt Jennifer, you will explain to me right now what is going on, or I will get married anyway, even with the torn dress. Jennifer looked at the girl she had raised as a daughter and saw the determination in her eyes. She sighed deeply and looked around the hall full of curious people. All right, but not here. Let's talk in the garden, just the three of us. She pointed to Emily, Michael and Margaret. I'm coming too, said Ashley, but Jennifer shook her head. Just the three of us. And you too, Jessica. You need to know the truth. The five people walked towards the garden of the banquet hall. The place was beautifully decorated with white roses and LED lights, creating a romantic atmosphere that contrasted drastically with the tension of the moment. Jennifer waited until they were out of earshot of curious listeners before she began to speak. Emily, my dear, what I'm about to tell you will change everything you think about your life. The young bride crossed her arms, still angry about the situation. I'm listening. You are not my niece. The world seemed to stop for Emily. Jessica's eyes widened, and Michael remained silent, looking from one woman to the other. What do you mean? You were adopted. I adopted you when you were just 3 months old. Emily felt her legs go weak. Michael moved closer to support her, but she instinctively pulled away. That can't be true. It's true, my child. And there's more. Jennifer looked at Margaret, who kept her eyes fixed on the ground. Your biological mother's name was Sarah Johnson. She was my best friend when we were young. Was? Emily noticed the past tense. Sarah passed away soon after you were born. She asked me to take care of you and never came back. Margaret finally raised her eyes. Jennifer, please. What, Margaret? Are you going to lie now too? Michael looked at his mother, confused. Mum, what is she talking about? You do know each other. Margaret took a deep breath before answering. Sarah Johnson was my best friend too. The impact of the revelation made Michael take a few steps back. What do you mean? You both knew Emily's biological mother. We knew because we were inseparable in high school, Jennifer continued. Me, Margaret, and Sarah. 3 friends who grew up together in the Upper East Side. Jessica, who had remained silent until then, finally spoke. Mother, why did you never tell us this? Because Sarah made me promise I would never tell. She had her reasons. Emily was beginning to understand that there was much more to this story. What reasons? Jennifer and Margaret exchanged looks again. It was Margaret who seemed more reluctant to continue. Sarah got pregnant very young, Margaret finally said. She was only 18. Okay, but that doesn't explain why you're destroying my wedding, Emily exploded. It does explain, Jennifer said quietly, because Sarah didn't just have one baby. The silence that followed was heavy as lead. What do you mean? Michael asked. Sarah had twins. Emily felt the world spinning around her. Michael remained motionless as if he hadn't understood the words. Twins? Emily repeated. A boy and a girl. You and... Jennifer looked directly at Michael. And you. The revelation landed like a bomb. Michael shook his head vehemently. That's impossible. That's crazy. My mother told me I was born here in New York at Mercy Hospital. You were born at Mercy Hospital, Margaret said, her voice trembling. But you were adopted. Sarah handed you to me when you were 3 days old. Michael turned to his mother, incredulous. Mother, this can't be true. Margaret began to cry. It's true, my son. Sarah couldn't raise both of you alone. Your father had disappeared when he found out about the pregnancy. Sarah was desperate. Emily was in a state of absolute shock. So Michael is my brother, Jennifer completed. Twin. The revelation was so absurd that Michael started to laugh, a nervous, disbelieving laugh. This is ridiculous. You're making up this story because you don't want me to marry Emily. Michael, Margaret approached her son. You always knew you were adopted. I told you when you turned 15. Yes, but you said my biological parents had died in an accident. I lied to protect you. Sarah was alive when she gave you to me, but she made me promise you would never know. Jessica was watching everything with wide eyes. Mother, you mean Emily and Michael are siblings? Twin siblings who were separated at birth and met by chance, fell in love, and were about to get married without knowing the truth. The magnitude of the situation began to hit Emily. She looked at Michael, the man she had been madly in love with for 3 years, and tried to see him as a brother. This can't be true, she whispered. Emily, my dear, do you think I would ruin your most important day with a lie? Michael was pacing back and forth, running his hands through his hair. There must be some mistake. There has to be. There is no mistake, Michael, Margaret said. Sarah left documents, your original birth certificates. Where are these documents? Emily asked. At home, in my safe. Sarah gave me everything the day she left. Michael stopped pacing and looked directly at Emily. Even if this were true, how can you be sure? It could be a coincidence. Jennifer sighed. You both have an identical birthmark, a small mark shaped like a crescent moon. Emily instinctively brought her hand to her left shoulder, where she had exactly that mark. Michael paled. How do you know about my mark? Because Sarah told me you were both born with it, and because I saw it when you took your jacket off earlier, before the ceremony started. Michael looked at his own left shoulder, where he indeed had a small crescent moon-shaped mark, something he had always thought was just an interesting coincidence he shared with Emily. My God, he whispered. The 5 of them stood in silence in the garden, processing the scale of the revelation. In the distance, they could hear the murmur of the guests, who were certainly speculating about what was happening. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Aunt Jennifer, Emily said finally, why did Sarah separate the 2 of you? Why did she give him to Mrs. Margaret and me to you? Jennifer looked at Margaret, as if asking for permission to continue. Sarah believed it was better this way. She had read somewhere that separated twins have better, more independent lives. That doesn't make any sense, Michael said. It does, if you understand Sarah's state of mind at the time. Margaret interjected. She was very young, alone and scared. Your father had disappeared when he found out about the twin pregnancy. Who was my father? Our father, Emily asked. A young man named David Johnson. Sarah used his last name for both of you. He was a medical student, but when he found out Sarah was pregnant with twins, he simply vanished. Sarah was devastated, Jennifer continued. She spent the entire pregnancy planning how she was going to raise 2 babies alone, working as a sales clerk in a clothing store. When you were born, she completely fell apart, Margaret said. She came to me crying, saying she couldn't do it, that it was better to give you to different families. Why different families? Jessica asked. Why not leave the 2 of them together? Sarah had a crazy theory that twins who grow up together become too dependent on each other. She wanted you to have normal, independent lives. Michael shook his head. That's absurd. To us, yes. But Sarah was emotionally devastated. She wasn't thinking clearly. Emily sat down in a garden chair, feeling like her legs could no longer hold her. And after you took us? Sarah spent a few months trying to rebuild her life, Jennifer said. But she couldn't overcome the guilt. She blamed herself for separating you. One day she simply disappeared, Margaret finished. She left a letter saying she was going far away to start a new life and that she would never return. Did you look for her? We looked for years. We hired a private detective, put ads in the newspaper, searched for distant relatives. Sarah simply vanished. Michael approached Emily and sat in the chair next to hers. Emily, I don't know what to say. Me neither. They looked into each other's eyes, and for the first time since they had met, they saw something different there. Not the romantic passion they had always felt, but something deeper, a connection that transcended romantic love. "You two have always had a strange connection," Jessica observed. "Remember how you met?" Emily and Michael smiled sadly at the same time. "On the subway," they said in unison. "I was coming home from work, and Michael was heading to work. We both lost our balance at the same time when the train braked," Emily recounted. "And we fell on top of each other," Michael finished. "It was as if we already knew each other." "You used to say the same things at the same time from the very beginning," Jessica recalled. "You'd order the same food, choose the same colors, have the same tastes." "I always thought we were soulmates," Michael said ironically. "I never imagined we were literally twins." Jennifer approached the two of them. "My dears, I know this is devastating, but you need to understand that I couldn't let it happen. Your love is real, but it's the love of siblings, not of husband and wife." Emily began to cry. "But I love him, Aunt Jennifer. I love him in a way I've never loved anyone." "And I love her too," Michael said, holding Emily's hand. "How am I supposed to stop loving her?" "You won't stop loving," Margaret approached, "but you will learn to love in a different way, like siblings." "And what if you're wrong?" Michael asked. "What if this is all a terrible mistake?" "Then tomorrow we will take a DNA test," Jennifer said, "but I'm sure of what I'm saying." The five fell silent again. The sun was beginning to set, painting the garden with a golden, melancholy light. "What will we tell the guests?" Emily asked. "The truth," Jennifer answered. "They deserve an explanation." "How am I supposed to explain to my parents that I found out I'm adopted on my wedding day?" Michael asked Margaret. "Your parents already know, Michael. They always knew. Sarah insisted that only I knew the full story, but Robert always knew you were adopted. My father knows. He knows, and he will understand." At that moment, Ashley appeared at the entrance to the garden. "Emily, sorry to interrupt, but the guests are getting impatient. Some are already leaving." Emily looked at Michael, then at Jennifer. "I think we need to go out there and explain." "I'll go with you," Jennifer said. "We will too," Margaret added. The group returned to the banquet hall where about 80 people still waited, talking in small groups and clearly speculating about what was happening. Father Michael approached as soon as he saw them enter. "My child, what has been decided?" Emily took a deep breath. "Father, there will be no wedding." A murmur ran through the hall. Michael asked for attention by raising his hand. "Everyone, Emily and I have something important to tell you." Everyone gathered near the makeshift altar, where the ceremony should have taken place. "What I'm about to tell you is hard to believe, but it's the truth," Emily began. "Michael and I just found out that we are siblings." The hall erupted in exclamations of surprise and disbelief. Twins who were separated at birth and met by chance, not knowing the truth. Ashley brought her hand to her mouth, shocked. "Is that possible?" "It's possible and it's real," Michael confirmed. "Our mothers told us the whole story just now." Robert Johnson, Michael's father, approached his son. "Michael, my boy, are you all right?" "I'm confused, Dad, but now I understand why you always said I was a gift that came to our family. You have always been our son, Michael, adopted or not." From the group of guests, an elderly lady stepped forward. It was Mrs. Johnson, a 75-year-old retired midwife, who had been invited as she was an old neighbor of Margaret's. "Excuse me," she said, approaching. "You said you are twins born 28 years ago?" "Yes," Emily answered. "Was Sarah Johnson the mother?" Jennifer and Margaret looked at each other, surprised. "You knew Sarah?" "I delivered the two of you," Mrs. Johnson said, emotional. "It was one of the most difficult deliveries of my career. Sarah was alone, without the children's father." The revelation caused another stir in the hall. Sarah cried throughout the entire delivery. Mrs. Johnson continued. She kept repeating that she didn't know how she was going to raise two babies alone. "Do you remember anything else?" Margaret asked. "I remember she said something strange when you were born. She looked at the two of you and said, 'My children are so alike, they seem like two parts of the same soul. Perhaps it's better for them to grow up apart to become complete people.'" Emily and Michael looked at each other, impacted by their biological mother's words. Sarah was very emotionally shaken, Mrs. Johnson finished, but her love for the two of you was immense. She held you both for hours before she decided to give you up. The weight of the revelation was affecting everyone in the hall. Many of the guests had tears in their eyes. Ashley approached Emily. "Cousin, what are you going to do now?" "We don't know yet. We need to process all of this." Michael looked around the decorated hall for his wedding. "I think everyone should go home. I apologize for all this trouble." "Michael," said his best man, Jason, who had been his best friend since childhood. "Do you want me to take you home?" "Thank you, Jason. But I think I need to stay here a little longer, talking to Emily." "Of course." The guests began to say their goodbyes, some still in shock from the revelation, others moved by the extraordinary story they had witnessed. Mrs. Patterson, the seamstress, approached Jennifer. "Mrs. Baker, you did the right thing. It must have been very difficult." "It was the most difficult decision of my life, Mrs. Patterson, but I couldn't let it happen." "You are a brave mother." Before long, only the two families remained in the hall, Emily, Jessica, and Jennifer on one side, Michael, Margaret, and Robert on the other, and in the middle, the story that had united them so unexpectedly. "Michael," Robert said, "do you want to talk at home?" "Dad, I would like to stay here a little longer. I need to understand what I'm feeling." "Of course, my son." Margaret approached Jennifer. "Jennifer, I am so sorry for all the lies. Sarah made me swear I would never tell." "I understand, Margaret. You were trying to protect Michael, just as I was trying to protect Emily." "Do you think Sarah is still alive?" Emily asked. "We don't know," Jennifer answered. "It's been almost 3 decades." "I would like to look for her," Michael said. "Now that we know the truth, perhaps it's time to find her." "If she wants to be found," Margaret observed. "Sarah made it very clear she wanted to disappear." Jessica, who had been quiet during the conversation with the guests, finally spoke. "Mom, does this mean I have another brother now?" Jennifer smiled for the first time since it all began. "Yes, my daughter. Now you have both Emily and Michael as siblings." "And I always wanted an older brother," Jessica said, looking at Michael. Michael smiled at the girl. "And I always wanted more sisters." The situation was still surreal, but there was something comforting about the idea of an extended family. "Emily," Michael said, "do you want to walk in the garden for a bit? Just the two of us?" "Of course." The two of them went out into the garden again, leaving the families talking in the hall. "Michael, I don't know how to feel," Emily said when they were alone. "Part of me still loves you, as I always have." "Me too. It's strange to discover that what we felt was sibling love, but we interpreted it as romantic love." "Do you think our attraction was real?" Michael thought for a moment. "I think it was real, but it was different from what we thought. It was recognition, our soul recognizing its other half." "Do you really believe that?" "I don't know what to believe now, but I know I love you, Emily, not romantically, but in a way I can't explain." "I love you too, Michael, and maybe it was always sisterly love, even without us knowing." They walked in silence among the garden's roses. "What do we do now?" Emily asked. "We learn to be siblings. We look for our birth mother, and we move forward." "What about dating other people?" Michael stopped walking. "I think it will be strange at first, but we have to try." "We're 28, Michael. We're late to restart our love lives." "It's never too late to start over." They returned to the hall, where they found the families talking animatedly, as if they had been one family for years. "Have we decided anything?" Jennifer asked. "We decided that we are going to be siblings," Emily said, "and that we are going to look for Sarah." "And how will we do that?" Margaret asked. "We can start with the documents you kept," Michael suggested. "See if there's any clue about where she went." "And we can hire a private investigator," Robert added. "With today's internet, maybe it'll be easier to find her." "If she wants to be found," Jennifer repeated. "We have to try," Emily said. "She is our mother. She deserves to know that we found each other and that we are okay." Mrs. Patterson, who had stayed in the hall helping to pick up the pieces of the dress, approached. "Mrs. Baker, I managed to gather almost all the pieces of the dress. If you'd like, I can try to make a new dress with the usable fabric." "What for, Mrs. Patterson?" "For when Emily finds the right man to marry for real." Emily smiled sadly. "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson, but I think I'll keep these pieces as a souvenir of the day I discovered I had a bigger family than I imagined." Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "Shall we go home?" Jennifer asked. "We still have a lot to talk about." "Actually," Margaret said, "how about we all have dinner together? After all, we are one family now." The idea seemed to please everyone. "We can go to our house," Robert suggested. "Margaret makes the best shepherd's pie with jerked beef in New York. And I can make my chocolate pave," Jennifer added. "Emily always loves it." "I love chocolate pave too," Michael said, and everyone laughed. "Of course you do," Jessica said. "You are twins." The group left the party hall, which was being taken down by the venue staff. The white flowers and golden lights that were supposed to be the setting for a wedding became the setting for an extraordinary family discovery. In the car, Emily looked back and saw the hall one last time. "Aunt Jennifer, how did you find out? How did you know Michael was my brother?" "I suspected from the first time you brought him home for dinner. He had the same way Sarah had of tilting his head when he was thinking. Just because of that. At first, yes, but then I started noticing other things. The way you both said the same things at the same time. How you ordered exactly the same food when we went out to eat." "And why didn't you say anything before?" "Because I wasn't sure, and because you both seemed so happy together. I thought maybe I was imagining things." "What made you sure?" "When you brought me the wedding invitation, and I saw his full name, Michael Johnson Johnson. Johnson was the last name Sarah used for you two." "And you confirmed it with Mrs. Margaret?" "I tried to contact her a few times, but I always lost my nerve, until I finally called last night." Michael, who was in the car behind with his family, was having a similar conversation with his parents. "Dad, why did you never tell me about Sarah?" "Michael, when you were little, we tried. But you would get very sad when we talked about your birth mother having left. When I was 15, you told me my birth parents had passed away in an accident. We lied to protect you. We thought it would be better for you to believe they didn't abandon you by choice. And about me having a twin sister. Sarah made Margaret promise that you would never know. She believed it was better for you to grow up not knowing about each other. What a strange decision. Sarah was very young and very scared, my son. She did what she thought was best at the time." Margaret turned to look at her son in the back seat. "Michael, are you angry with us?" "No, Mother. You gave me a wonderful family. I'm just trying to process everything." "And how do you feel about Emily?" Michael looked out the window, seeing the car ahead where Emily was. "It's strange, Mom. I still feel love for her, but it's different now, like it's a deeper love, but not romantic. Brotherly love. Yeah, brotherly love." The two cars arrived at the Johnsons' house, a simple but cozy home in a residential neighborhood in the northern part of New York. "What a beautiful house," Jessica said as they got out of the car. "Thank you, dear," Robert replied. "It's small, but it's ours." Margaret opened the door and everyone went inside. The house was indeed welcoming, with simple but well-kept furniture and many family photos on the walls. "Michael, your baby pictures," Emily said, looking at the living room wall. "Where?" Emily pointed to a photo of baby Michael in Margaret's arms. "Wow, we really do look alike even as babies." Jessica moved closer to the photos. "It's incredible. You two are identical even though one is a boy and one is a girl." Jennifer was looking at the photos with teary eyes. "Sarah would be happy to know you both had such loving families." "Do you think she still thinks about us?" Michael asked. "I'm sure she does. A mother never forgets her children, even if she had to go away." Margaret went to the kitchen to prepare dinner, and Jennifer went with her to help. The two women who had raised the twins were now working side by side, finally united by the truth. "Margaret, forgive me for holding a grudge against you all these years." "A grudge?" I always thought Sarah had shown preference for you, giving the boy to you and the girl to me, as if she trusted you more. Margaret stopped chopping the onions. Jennifer, it wasn't like that. Sarah chose you for Emily because she said you had a more maternal heart than I did. Really? Sarah said I was more practical, more organized, and that would be better for raising a boy, but that you had the necessary sensitivity for raising a girl. I never knew that. Sarah thought of everything. She wanted what was best for both of them. In the living room, Michael and Emily were on the sofa, looking at a photo album of Michael's childhood. Look at this picture of you at 5 years old, Emily said. You were identical to Jessica at that age. Really? Jessica came over and looked at the photo. It's true, it looks like me dressed as a boy. Genetics is an impressive thing, Robert commented. You three have very similar features. 3? You, Michael, and Jessica. Jessica is also Sarah's daughter. Everyone stopped and looked at Robert. What do you mean, Dad? Michael asked. Isn't Jessica Camilla's biological sister? Jennifer came running from the kitchen. What are you talking about? Robert said Jessica is also Sarah's daughter, Emily explained. That's not possible, Jennifer said. Jessica is my biological daughter. Robert realized he had said something wrong. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I meant that Jessica has features similar to you two because you've lived together for so long. That sometimes happens with adoptive families. Goodness, you scared me, Jennifer said, relieved. Sorry, Jennifer. But Jessica became thoughtful. She had always known her features were different from Jennifer's, but she never questioned it because Emily was also adopted. Mom, Jessica said, can I see my birth certificate? Why, my dear? Just curious. Of course, when we get home, I'll show it to you. Dinner was ready and everyone sat down at the table. It was the first meal of the new, expanded family. Can we make a toast? Robert suggested. To what? Michael asked. To family, to the truth, and to Sarah, wherever she may be. Everyone raised their glasses. To Sarah, they said in unison. During dinner, they talked about how their relationship would work from then on. Michael, you can come here for dinner every Sunday, Jennifer said. Jessica always wanted an older brother. And Emily can come too, Margaret added. I always wanted a daughter. What about looking for Sarah? Emily asked. We'll start tomorrow, Michael said. I'll look for private detectives who specialize in missing persons. I have the documents saved, Jennifer said. I'll get it as soon as we get home. And I have a few things too, Margaret completed. After dinner, they decided to go to Jennifer's house to see the documents. The house was a small but cozy apartment in the Upper East Side, the same neighborhood where the three friends had grown up together. Wow, what a lovely neighborhood, Robert commented. Did you all live here when you were young? Michael asked. We lived on the same street, Jennifer answered. Margaret, Sarah, and I were neighbors and inseparable. You must have so many memories of this place. So many, Margaret said nostalgically. Jennifer opened the safe in her bedroom and brought out a shoebox full of documents. Sarah left all of this with me on the day she left. She spread the papers out on the living room table, original birth certificates, vaccination cards, some photos from the pregnancy, and a letter. A letter? Michael asked. Sarah wrote a letter for the two of you, to be given to you when you turned 18. And why did you never deliver it? Emily asked. Because she also left instructions to only deliver it if you looked for her voluntarily. Can we read it now? Jennifer hesitated. I think so. You are adults, and you are looking for her. She handed the sealed envelope to Emily. With trembling hands, the young woman opened it and began to read aloud. My dear children, if you are reading this letter, it means you have somehow found each other and discovered the truth. This makes me happy and sad at the same time. Happy because you have been reunited. Sad because it means my attempts to keep you apart did not work. I want you to know that the most difficult decision of my life was to separate you. You were born so united, so connected, that you seemed like two parts of one person. But I was very young and very scared. Your father had disappeared when he found out we were expecting twins, and I had neither the emotional nor the financial means to raise you. When you were born, I held you in my arms and saw how you looked at each other, how you seemed to communicate without words, I thought that maybe it would be better for you to grow up apart, to become independent people. Now I know it was a mistake. The love between siblings should not be interrupted by fear. I gave you to the two most wonderful women I knew, Jennifer and Margaret. I knew you would be loved and well cared for. After I left, I tried many times to come back for you, but I always gave up, thinking it would be better for you not to have an unstable and confused mother in your lives. If you are reading this, it means you have grown up and become good people. This fills me with pride. Do not look for me. I have a new life now in a distant place, and I think it's better if it remains that way. But know that not a single day goes by that I don't think of you and wonder how you are. Be happy. Love each other as siblings and forgive your cowardly mother. With all my love, Sarah Johnson. The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. Emily was crying, as was Michael. She doesn't want to be found, Michael said. But she wrote this over 10 years ago, Jessica observed. Maybe she changed her mind. Or maybe not, Jennifer said. We have to respect her wishes. But it doesn't hurt to try, Emily insisted. If she really doesn't want to see us, she can refuse. But maybe she's waiting for us to take the initiative. What do you think? Michael asked Jennifer and Margaret. I think you have the right to look, Margaret said. She is your mother. I agree, Jennifer added. But if she asks to be left alone, we have to respect that. Of course, Michael took out his phone. I'm going to look for detectives right now. While Michael searched, Emily examined the other documents. Look, here's the address where she lived when you were born. We can go there tomorrow, Jessica suggested. Maybe someone in the neighborhood knows something. Good idea. And there are also some pregnancy photos, Emily continued, showing pictures of Sarah with a big belly. Wow, she was beautiful, Michael commented. You two take after her, Robert said. Here's a photo of her with you two when you were young, Jessica said, picking up a photo of the three friends. In the picture, Sarah was in the middle, hugging Jennifer and Margaret. The three were young, beautiful, and looked very happy. What a wonderful time, Jennifer said nostalgically. We were so innocent. Sarah was the biggest dreamer of the three, Margaret remembered. She always said she would travel the world, see exotic places. Maybe she succeeded, Michael said. Maybe she's living her dreams somewhere far away. Let's hope so. Michael found some private detectives on the internet. I found 3 who seem serious. I can call them tomorrow. How much do you think an investigation like that costs? Emily asked. It doesn't matter, Michael and Jennifer said at the same time, making everyone laugh. You two are definitely siblings, Jessica joked. Let's split the costs, Robert said. We all want to find Sarah. It was already late when they decided to end the conversation. It had been a long and emotionally draining day for everyone. Michael, do you want to sleep here tonight? Jennifer offered. The sofa is comfortable. Thank you, but I think it's better if I go home. I need to process all of this calmly. Of course, but now you are welcome here whenever you want. And you all are welcome at our house too, Margaret said. The Johnsons said goodbye and left. Emily, Jessica, and Jennifer were alone in the apartment. What a day, Jessica said, flopping onto the sofa. How are you feeling, my dear? Jennifer asked Emily. Confused, sad, but also relieved. Relieved? Relieved to finally understand why Michael and I had such a strong connection, and relieved that you saved me from making a terrible mistake. It was so hard to rip your dress. You looked so beautiful. You did the right thing, Aunt Jennifer. You always do. And now? What do you feel for Michael? Emily thought for a moment. I still feel love for him. But it's different now. It's a purer, deeper love, as if I've finally found the missing part of myself. Sisterly love. Exactly. Jessica was looking at the photos of the documents again. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course, my dear. Why do I look so much like Michael and Emily if I'm your biological daughter? Jennifer hesitated before answering. You look like them because you've lived with Emily since you were little. Sometimes people who live together end up developing similar features. Are you sure? I am, my dear. Why do you ask? I don't know. It's just that sometimes I feel like there's something I don't know about myself. Jennifer and Emily exchanged looks. Jessica, do you want to see your birth certificate? Yes, I do. Jennifer went to get Jessica's documents and returned with them. Jessica examined everything carefully. Mom, why isn't my father on the certificate? Because he didn't want to take responsibility. You know that. And why don't I have any photos from when I was a baby? You do have photos, Jessica. I don't have photos from the first few months, only from 6 months on. Jennifer was getting uncomfortable with the questions. Jessica, why so many questions? Because I've always felt different, Mom. And today, seeing Emily and Michael's story, I started to wonder if there's something I don't know about myself. Emily moved closer to her sister. Jessica, what are you trying to say? I'm saying that maybe I'm adopted too. The silence that followed was heavy. Jennifer sat down in the armchair, suddenly looking older. Mom, Jessica insisted. Jennifer took a deep breath. Jessica, you were adopted too. The revelation landed like a second bomb on the same day. What? You were adopted when you were 6 months old, not at birth like Emily, but a few months later. Why? Who were my biological parents? Your biological parents were very young and couldn't take care of you. Your mother was just a 15-year-old teenager. Emily was shocked. Aunt, why did you never tell me? Because Jessica was so little when she arrived here that I thought it was better for her to grow up thinking she was my biological daughter. Jessica was processing the information. So Emily isn't my biological sister? She is not, but she is your sister of the heart, which is even stronger. And my biological parents? Where are they? I don't know, my dear. They gave you to me through a social worker and disappeared. What were they like? Very young, your mother was a blonde girl with blue eyes. Your father was a young man with dark hair and dark eyes. And why did you decide to adopt me? Because I wanted to give Emily a sister, and because you were so tiny, so helpless, that I fell in love with you the moment I saw you. Jessica began to cry. Why does everyone lie about these things? It's not a lie, Jessica. It's protection. We all tried to protect you from the pain. But the pain comes anyway. Now I've found out I don't know who I am. Emily hugged Jessica. Yes, you do. You are my sister, my companion for my whole life. It doesn't matter if we are biological sisters or not. But I want to know where I come from. And you will know, Jennifer said. Tomorrow, I will get all your documents and we will look for your biological parents too. Really? Really? No more secrets in this family. Jessica calmed down a little. So now the 3 of us are adopted. The 3 of you are loved, Jennifer corrected. By me, by Margaret, by Robert. You have a big, loving family. It's true, Emily agreed. And now I have you and Michael as siblings. And I have both of you too. The 3 of them hugged on the sofa. What a crazy family we are, Jessica said, making the others laugh. The craziest and most loved family in New York, Jennifer finished. The next morning, Michael called Emily early. Emily, I called a detective. He can see us this afternoon. Great, and I have some news for you. What news? We found out that Jessica is adopted too. Really? So she's not your biological sister? She is not, but she is my sister of the heart. Wow. How many more secrets are going to come out in this family? I hope there are no more. We've had enough excitement for a lifetime. I agree. Do you want me to come pick you up so we can go to the detective together? I do, and Michael? Yes? Thank you for being my brother. Michael smiled on the other end of the line. Thank you for being my sister. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this amazing story. Do you believe Jennifer did the right thing by destroying the marriage to save the siblings? And what do you think happened to Sarah? Leave your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other exciting stories like this one.